All right, my dear friends, we are back. Way number 19 is b'mi'ut sheina. B'mi'ut sheina means with limited sleep. Limited sleep. Yeah. Guess what? It's a simple thing. If you sleep too much, you're going to miss life. You're just going to miss out on life. You know, it's really an incredible observation. Children don't like to sleep. You know why they don't like to sleep? Because they're afraid. I have so much to accomplish. I've got so much to do. Who has time to sleep? Let's go. My kid is like, he's jumping out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning. He's like, but let's have a catch. I'm going to catch now. I'm not having a baseball catch with you now. This morning he had to study a little bit more for his test, right? So too early for me. He wakes me up and we have to learn. And of course I jumped out of bed to learn with him. But the kids, the younger they are, the more they don't want to sleep. And the reason they don't want to sleep is because they have dreams, they have hopes, they want to accomplish. But then they get to their teenage years where enough people have told them, give up on your dreams, you're never going to make it. You're never going to be the next Elon Musk. You're never going to be the next Bill Gates. Just stop with your dreams already. So that's when they're like, you try to wake them at 10 o'clock in the morning. You can't move them, right? 11 o'clock in the morning. Hello, sometime in the AM. Let's go. Summertime, my wife has a deal with my daughter. She has to go to sleep in the PM and wake up in the AM. Because all too often she'll go to sleep in the AM sometime at 1, 2, 3 in the morning and wake up in the PM at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That's not functional, right? That's not a healthy way for a person to live life, because then you miss life. Someone who sleeps too much, but sleep is critically important. Rambam says that a healthy adult needs 8 hours of sleep. 8 hours of sleep. So, we have to get those 8 hours.
Did he?
What's that?
Did he get 8 hours of sleep?
I don't know. I don't know if he did. But too much sleep dulls the mind. We have to have a balance. And all of these, there are 6 of them that we talk about here in the 48 ways that talk about limited balance. They talk about balance. It is so important. The challenge. So another thing is not to be daydreaming and not to be sleeping through life. I mean, you're awake, but you're sleeping. That's also a thing. My grandfather would say that when you walk in the streets, don't just walk to a destination with an empty mind. That's sleeping. Think of something. Take a verse from the Torah, from this week's parsha, from a Mishnah, a line of Talmud, and think about it. Get it into your mind. Start thinking about it. So you don't just sit and like, what am I going to do now? I think one of the greatest, now don't get me wrong, I love baseball, but I think one of the greatest wastes of time is baseball. It's 4 hours. There's so much time between each pitch. It's like a root canal is easier than that. Okay. It really is. And now it's amazing that people love going to baseball games though. For me, it's enough 1 inning and I'm good to go. Okay. 1 inning and I'm good. There's work to do. There's things to accomplish. We're only here for that much time. So unless we take practical steps to stay awake, sleep is going to overcome us. We have to be proactive to be awake. Now, what do I mean? Being awake spiritually, being awake with our mind, being awake, taking in lessons, not to be sleeping. There are messages that God is sending us constantly. We have to be awake. I'll give you just a little insight. We'll end with this. It's possible for a person to live their entire life without thinking a single meaningful thought.
You know somebody like that? I don't.
Yeah, have you ever been on TikTok?
I don't go to TikTok. That's not for me.
Well,
It's not really for anybody.
well, right, but that's the thing. There's an entire generation
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
that all they're doing is from one entertainment to another entertainment.
True.
Nothing of meaning. But here's another thing. Have you ever thought about a verse in the Torah that you've known your whole life? Like in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And now we spent several weeks discussing just the first word, then the first verse and the first chapter. It's like endless. We spent months and months on that. You know that it's an incredible thing that when you learn something, yes, there are times I learn Mishnah, I learn something, and I think I know it inside out. And then I hear a lecture from another rabbi, and he brings an insight, and I'm like, I was sleeping till now. How can I not have seen that idea? How can I not have thought in that way? Where was I till now? I was sleeping. That's another type of sleep that we should avoid. You know, I famously, I've said this many times, I've asked my rabbi, he used to teach class, and this is an art, okay? He used to teach class to like 50, 60 future rabbis. You may know many of them, Rabbi Moskowitz, Rabbi Mastery, myself, and many others learned in Rabbi Berkowitz's kollel. So we would see him, he would be teaching this lecture, and he would doze off in middle of his words. But what was amazing about it is that he would wake up about 40 seconds later, and there's like deafening silence because nobody wants to wake him, and nobody knows what to do. It's like awkward.
Yeah.
And he would wake up and resume exactly where he left off. So I once asked him, I was very close with him. I asked him, I said, Rebbe, I found out that he sleeps only 2.5 hours a night. So I said, how did you do that? She said, I used to sleep 8 hours, and then I started slowly, in a very slow, progressive pace, taking off 5 minutes, another 5 minutes, another 5 minutes, another 5 minutes. And he says, today, all he needs is 2.5 hours. He says, sometimes he goes off. Okay, big deal. I said, Rebbe, when are you going to sleep? You got to sleep. He says, I'll sleep when I die. I'll sleep when I die. And it's an important thing that never let your mind wander off. How many times, and I've done this myself, realizing there are certain apps that are created to waste your time. Right? YouTube, Facebook, just scrolling and scrolling. So you know what I started doing? I'd go through my phone every couple of weeks and delete 5 apps. The biggest, those that I need the least and take the most time out of my day. Just delete them. Done. And if I'm even stronger, sometimes I'll even get rid of my smartphone for a few weeks. You've all experienced that, right? But and just completely get rid of it for 3 weeks, a month, to just cleanse myself. I don't need it. Be alert, be awake every moment of the day. All right, let's get to the parsha.